Welcome to episode 20 of the Expert Crew Show. I'm Anthony, he's Chris, and we are about to take you to sea with a very special episode today. Chris, you recently travelled on the 185th anniversary crossing. It was the 185th year of Cunard.
Yes.
And it was a kind of celebratory sailing from Southampton to New York. But you were on board with a whole bunch of other superstars as well as yourself, including Steven Payne, Steven Payne OBE, I should say, the architect, naval architect of Queen Mary 2. Must have been kind of weird travelling. Have you travelled with him before on his own ship?
No, so this was the first time I'd been on Queen Mary 2 with Steven Payne. We've been friends for quite a long time, and we've met ashore a number of times. But this was quite something, Anthony, and having the opportunity to not only share the Queen Mary 2 with him, but also share the stage with him was very, very special for me. He's been a bit of a hero of mine since Queen Mary 2 was first announced, so it was quite surreal.
I think he's a hero to anybody who goes on that ship. You know what I mean? Because people are like, this is a bit different. Yes. And then they do a bit of research and then they discover that this kid who basically wanted to do this job since he was a child and got himself a Blue Peter badge because of it, ended up, bringing his dream to fruition. I mean, that is kind of the ultimate success story, isn't it? And so he's very deserving of his OBE, not to mention all the other kind of accolades that he has got. So you interviewed him on the stage in the I guess you were in the Illuminations, were you?
We were actually in the Royal Court Theatre because it has a larger. It doesn't seem like it, but it actually has a larger seating count than Illuminations. And because this particular event, it was the first time Cunard had ever done this, where one guest speaker interviewed another guest speaker. But Stephen and I had this idea about 18 months ago, actually, and we posed it to Cunard. We put it to them and said, look, we're going to both be on the ship. We've done these chats before on the YouTube channel. Why don't we do an interview live for everybody? And they agreed. So, I had the opportunity to sit down with Steven, and we spent about 50 minutes just talking through various points in relation to some design secrets of Queen Mary 2. But Anthony, we knew that so many people who weren't traveling would want to see this, and in fact, I let it slip in one of the live streams that we were going to do this conversation, and I had all these people messaging me saying, can you film it? And I said, well, we can't film the actual event, but we are going to do a dress rehearsal. So how about we film that and bring that to the Expert Crew Show audience?
So you sat together in your cabin and you basically recorded your kind of pre-show for your audience on this YouTube channel, which is kind of genius. I would say.
One better than that, actually. I'll let you in a little secret before we air the interview. We were actually in the Britannia Dining Room, and we set ourselves up with this beautiful view of the tapestry. But of course, that dining room was so important in the design of Queen Mary 2, which you'll find out why that is a little bit later on. And Stephen actually said, how about we do this interview, this pre-recording in the Britannia Dining Room? And it's one of his favorite spots on board. Not his favorite spot, but one of his favorite spots on board. So we did it there.
This is very exciting. I literally can't wait to see it. The funny thing is, when I boarded Queen Mary 2 the day that you got off the ship in New York, I actually watched your interview with him on the TV in my cabin. So I saw the real thing on the ship, although not in person. They were still replaying the insights from the week before. Yeah. So I'm very excited for this. All right, so here it is. This is the unedited pre-show show between Steven Payne OBE and the maritime historian Chris Frame.
Well, hello everyone and welcome on board Queen Mary 2 during the 185th Cunard anniversary crossing. And if you know maritime history and you know Queen Mary 2, you know the gentleman who's sitting next to me today. I'm joined today by Dr. Steven Payne, the designer of the Queen Mary 2. Steven, thank you so much for joining me.
No, it's my pleasure. Great to be here, Chris.
What does the 185th anniversary of Cunard mean to you?
Well, Cunard, with its rich history, the longest running steamship company to be here, being able to experience it, and the response we've had from our respective lectures, tremendous capacity houses. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
It is. There's definitely a love for the brand and a love for the heritage, and Queen Mary 2 in particular.
Yeah.
Later in this voyage, which will have taken place by the time this video goes online, we'll be doing a conversation on the stage where I'll be asking you all sorts of questions about this ship. And we've had so many people on the channel who've asked if we could broadcast that one live, which isn't possible, but we thought we'd sit down together and have a bit of a chat about it for the YouTube audience.
Absolutely. That's a great opportunity.
So, of course, everyone knows you as the designer of the Queen Mary 2, but I'm imagining that didn't start your career, obviously. So what was the lead up to the moment that you got the call to ask you to design Queen Mary 2?
Well, I started at Carnival, and my first involvement was with the ship Holiday, which had just undertaken its first sea trial, which they'd had a few problems with stability and the like.
Okay.
And I was given a very antiquated computer program with a telephone link to a mainframe.
Really?
And I was trying to assess, with this very rudimentary stability program, the effect of putting the sponsons on the back of the Holiday. So that was my first Carnival ship, and then moving through fantasy class, obviously. My big contribution to that, apart from normal plan approval, was the bay window along the promenade deck that stuck out the side. That was my idea to put that on that ship. And then, of course, we had the early Staten Dams. Holland America. And then the Rotterdam 6 I was involved with, which very dear to my heart because Rotterdam 5 was such a special ship to me.
Yes.
To be the build. That's right, absolutely. And, I'd surveyed the ship along with the other Holland America ships in 1989 when Carnival decided to buy Holland America. And it was part of the due diligence. So I immediately knew Rotterdam was something very special and followed her throughout the rest of her career with Holland America, did many trips around the Pacific, Papua New Guinea, Guadalcanal, all places that wouldn't normally
remarkable ship
visit. Absolutely fabulous. And then was given Rotterdam 6 to manage. And I managed to convince the Fincantieri architect Shergold to put the twin stacks side by side to emulate.
Yeah.
And then I started the Costa Atlantica.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Started that. And then there was a lot of speculation about what was going to happen to Cunard.
Yeah,
because of course, Trafalgar House had bought Cunard in 71.
Yep.
And they had been very successful with it. They were invested a lot of money.
They gave QE to her first balcony accommodation. And
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the midlife refit, the re-engineering, of course, that saved it.
I mean, and that 94 refit was quite significant too.
Yeah, absolutely. But by the middle of the 90s, Trafalgar had been bought by the Caverna Group, mostly for their construction business. They had no interest in Cunard, and there was a lot of speculation that it would be sold to Prudential.
Nice.
And I thought, now what would an insurance company really do with a company like Cunard? So I asked the Caverna management, who we knew very well through our shipbuilding activities, whether or not I could do a trip as a lecturer, and I agreed. And I happened to be on QE2 doing lectures when it was announced that Carnival had bought the ship. And then I got a message during the voyage to say, we want you back quickly and you're to start thinking about Project Queen Mary on what you might do. It was that soon.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So Carnival had thought about wanting an ocean liner before they purchased Cunard?
That was the whole reason for purchasing Cunard, yeah. Mickey had already got this in his mind. But
And so what was it like to be asked to design an ocean liner? Well, in the 21st, the late 20th century,
37-year-old naval architect who had aspired to do ocean liners, but had been not stuck with cruise ships, but doing cruise ships.
That was pretty much all that was available.
Yeah, well, that's it, absolutely. So, and then everybody saying, "Oh, there's never going to be the opportunity of doing a liner."
You must have heard that so much.
Oh yeah, it was very tomorrow.
Yeah, how many people would have told you to move on, right?
And then Mickey saying, "Well, look, we're going to do this project potentially, if we can design the right ship and if we can find the right shipbuilder. There's $1 billion on offer.
Yeah.
But you've got to prove to us that the ship will make the return on investment within 10 years. That's the, and he quite emphatically said, if you can't make the sort of equivalent return on investment as we get from the cruise ship, we'll just make Cunard a cruise company.
Sure.
We won't do transatlantic.
Because at the time, of course, Cunard was the British arm, I guess. They didn't have P&O at the time.
No.
So it could have been a growth market for them.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So what was the brief then for Queen Mary 2, aside from it has to make the same money and return on investment? What do they give you when it comes to designing something like this?
Nothing. It was,
goodness, great.
You decide what you want to do.
That's pretty liberating and scary.
It was incredible, because they also said Cunard have not built a new ship like this since QE2, so there's nobody at Cunard who knows.
Yeah.
And they said, you've got the knowledge of what works within the cruise industry, so put together a design, show us, i.e. the Carnival management. If we like it, then you take it to Cunard and get their buy-in.
Sure.
So that was the process, and they said to me, take a look at the Disney ships.
Okay.
Because they look like a liner.
Yeah.
They've got the red and black funnels, and I said, they're cruise ships.
Yes.
But they may look like a liner. So I had to convince them about that, and I did that, scared them, by showing them what happened to the Michelangelo in 66.
Yes.
So I showed the ship, showed the wave coming over the bow.
Just for the benefit of the audience, she was hit by a large wave.
A large wave.
Broke the forward
in April, and it ripped open the front of the superstructure, and people were swept out and drowned.
Yeah. Terrible. And she was a liner.
Yeah. Albeit not a very good one, in my opinion. But
the forward profile was aluminium, wasn't it?
Yeah. I said, if we have an incident like that in the ship's career, it's going to completely destroy credibility and everything. So they said, okay, we understand, but you've got to make the money side of it work. It can't be. And so the first iteration, knowing QE2, and from working with Fincantieri at a time where they said they like to keep the public rooms together because it simplifies piping and reduces cost. So my first idea was a enlarged QE2 type ship with balconies in the superstructure, but 3 decks of public rooms. So what we have here on decks 2 and 3, the public room decks, would have been up alongside the bulkhead.
Right.
Yes. So that would have been a block of 3. But that would have meant the cabins below could only be window cabins.
Sure.
And when we ran the sums, the ship wouldn't have made the return on investment. And Mickey said, emphatically, you know what we're all about. It's balconies, balconies, balconies. So go back again. You've got another chance to redefine. And naval architecture, the way we do it is called a design spiral. And you have your first idea, you develop a plan, and then you're supposed to self-critic it.
Okay.
And then do a second plan based on the things. But what you have to understand is no ship is perfect. Every ship is a compromise, because it's a matter of engineering, safety, and the commercial side.
Yeah.
So there's huge, diverse things coming into play. So the second time round the spiral, he said, "Yep, this is going to work." And develop it further. I ended up doing a general arrangement, and we did a 50-page mini specification, and management said to me, well, you decide which yards you think can do it. So I sent it out to 5 shipyards, and I said, you've got to go through this.
Yes.
Go through my calculations, because I did a weight calculation, preliminary hull design, powering, escapes, all the naval architecture things that you have to do. Yeah. All done off the back of an envelope, because we didn't know there were no computer programs at that stage to do it. So it was all looking back. And
people don't think, I wouldn't realize that, I suppose, because you think of the early 2000s as being some digital, but it's so different to now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I said to the shipyards, if you want to bid, you have to verify my calculations. If you don't agree with them, run them past me so that you get my buy-in, what you want to do, and then give us a price and a delivery date. And so we went to HDW in Kiel. We went to Harland and Wolff in Belfast. We went to the French at Saint-Nazaire, Fincantieri, head office in Trieste, and Massillard's.
Right.
So Fincantieri and Massillard's declined because they said they were busy with other projects. HDW Kiel said it was far too big for them to contemplate. So that left Belfast and France. Belfast hadn't built a big passenger ship, proper passenger ship, since Canberra. 1961.
Yeah.
But Cunard were keen to have them on side because of the British element. The big problem with Harland and Wolff is that they were owned by Fred Olsen, small company with very little capital. And the way we contract these ships is we pay 5% when we sign the contract.
Okay.
And there's another 15% during construction. And on delivery, we pay 80%.
Right.
So it would have meant over a 3-year build period, the yard has got to finance 800 million. Fred Olsen couldn't do that.
Fair enough.
So we approached the British government on their behalf, and a lot of the government ministers said, yep, we must do that. This is perfect. But when it came to sign a bit of paper, not one of them would do it. We went out to Miami for the sea trade, and Mickey said to me, I've got Harland and Wolff and Chantier coming in to see me. We're not going to sign anything, but they made presentations, and Harland and Wolff said, oh, we're very sorry. We haven't got the financing, so we're going to drop out. The French went in and made an offer, which Mickey preliminarily accepted.
Wow.
And then from March through to November, we were busy doing the final specification and getting everything ready.
Yes. So Carnival didn't give you size, dimensions. No. So how did you come up with the size and scale of the ship? It was the largest passenger ship in service at the time.
Well, I knew to get things like the thickness of the hull and all the attributes of a liner add up to about 40% premium.
Yes.
And I knew that the bigger you build a ship, the cost per passenger bed comes down. So there's economy of scale.
Okay.
And so looking at the turning basin in Southampton, the length of the piers in New York, we originally berthed at Manhattan, the finger piers.
Yeah.
And then finally the height of the bridge at Verrazano.
Yes.
That really mapped out the dimension of the ship. I worked it from there.
Because we still now, even on the channel, we'll get some comments from people that say, well, the others are ocean liners too, because they've got the dark hull, and so obviously not. But what is in your words the difference, and why is there that cost differential?
Well, first off, you've got the thickness of the steel. So in places on here, we've got over 30 millimeters of steel, and most of the cruise ships are 16.
Okay, yeah.
So you've got that. Yeah. So it's almost double. So you've got that element. Then you've got the actual shape. If you look at the bow of this ship, it's very pointed.
Yeah.
So compared to a cruise ship, you can have a lot more cabins in the bow of a ship because it's so much more voluminous.
Yeah.
but you can't run a ship like that in heavy weather without it being damaged.
Yes.
And then the other important thing is, as everybody knows now, the cruise ships, you push the superstructure as far forward as possible and as aft as possible. But on the Atlantic, where you have swells, when the swell is running past the ship, when the buoyancy is changing all the time, if you've got all this weight forward and aft, it's making the ship want to bend and twist, and that is very, very detrimental very quickly to the structure. So this ship, where we've got the least buoyancy, which is at the front because it's so pointed, and where there's not much buoyancy at the stern, we push the superstructure to the middle.
Yeah, which is a pyramid shape, step up shape, yeah.
And, so it's fundamental to being a liner.
So it's significantly different, obviously.
Significantly different.
And for anyone who would say that she's not really a liner because she's also designed for cruising,
no, that's a nonsense, because the liner is to do the ability to be able to go on these long ocean passages at speed without having to divert because of bad weather.
And I always point out as well that like QE2 was dual purpose, Rotterdam was dual purpose, Aronia and Oceanic.
Yeah.
So there's so many other examples of this type of ship. So when you think back to the first of the second iteration that ended up being this one, what was the first line that you drew that is still here now?
The bottom line.
The bottom. You started at the bottom. I didn't know that.
No, they were bottom line, and then rough profile of the ship, knowing how many decks we would have. And then the first thing is to position the staircases for the fire zones.
Okay.
And
all here.
Yeah.
Passenger ones.
When this ship was built, you were only allowed a maximum of 1,600 square meters between each fire zone. So with the ship 41 meters wide, it meant the distance between fire zones was slightly less than 40. So that set the division.
Has that changed now?
Yes, you've got some flexibility. If you put in additional safety measures, you can stretch the boundaries.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what happens these days.
Yeah.
I wanted to put the dining room, the room we're in now, at the center of motion, and a passenger ship doesn't really pivot on the waves in the middle. It pivots about 2/3 from the bow. So this was the first space that I
Yes, it did.
Because I wanted it to be as stable as possible if the weather got rough.
And was it always going, in your mind, was it always going to be this grand?
Oh yeah, it was always going to be a multi...
Because you've said before in previous conversations on the channel that you wanted a ship of state dining room for everyone.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is such a huge difference to the previous ocean liners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So was it always going to be this grand?
Yes, I always envisaged it like this, the grand dining room on the Normandy, and the original Queen Mary's main dining room was this sort of epic size.
Yeah.
And I really thought if we design the space correctly, we could get the 1,300 people in each sitting.
Yeah.
And what is amazing though is when you think Britannia, Cunard's first built ship, would actually fit in this room. It is unbelievable.
People don't realize the scale of ships, like how I had a question recently, do they have to be a certain size to be able to do the voyage? And I was like, well, Britannia was 207 feet.
Absolutely.
The voyage. It would have been horrendous.
Yep. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But you've got the design, you've started working on it. And then I remember, because this is a ship I remember being announced and designed and launched very vividly. And there was artist renditions. There was one particular one with the the proposed QM2 sailing outbound and QE2 sailing inbound.
Yeah.
And she looks like this ship, but not quite like this ship. So it had a bigger funnel, had lower decks. So when did it start to look like this?
Well, that artist's impression was put out around the time of the letter of intent.
Right.
And between that time and the final contract, we decided to rearrange the engine room slightly because the original plan was to have 2 large diesel engine rooms down below. In the end, we've only got 1, and to compensate for that, we've now got the gas turbine. To accommodate the funnel and the gas turbine house, we had to rearrange the top deck, and that's what changes it because there's always that height restriction for getting under Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And the height of our funnel was the maximum I could possibly go. And I remember the New York Times saying to me, well, what if you've got your calculation wrong? And of course the stock answer is, but there'll only be a problem the first time.
So true. And it would have made headlines.
Yes. And when you don't really understand how big this ship is until you see pictures like when they berth together in Manhattan for the third time.
Yeah.
She looks like a tugboat.
And she's not a small ship.
She's not a small ship by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so if you fast forward to the ship's been built at Le Chantier and she's about to enter service, I mean, what is that journey like to take it from paper to actual creation?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of hard work involved, obviously, by a lot of people, many stages, all the time we're doing things like deciding what fibre optic sign would we have on the turbine house and that, because the French, I went over one meeting.
You mean the Queen Mary 2?
The Queen Mary 2, which is the largest fibre optic sign in the world when it was built, because you'd use LEDs now.
Yes.
So, but we told the French what we wanted, and they said, right, come over, called us at 4 o'clock in the morning, brought us to the yard in the middle of winter, so it's pitch black, and they said, we've mocked up the queue on the ship, we're going to switch it on, see what you think.
Yeah.
So they switched this thing on. It's so feeble. I said, is it there? No, I can't see it. I said, we want something much better than that. And they said, well, we anticipated you'd say that, Mr. Payne. So we've got another one beside it, slightly brighter. We'll put that on. And I said, that's just as bad. I said, I want to see this from space.
Yes.
And I said, any other ship that's in port, I don't care. You know, people won't recognise what they are, but they've got to know this is Queen Mary.
Yeah.
So I said, it's got to be a really dominant sign. And I said, it just so happened, we have our queue ready to show you.
Okay.
And we had it in our office that you could see from where we were. Telephone the office and they switched it on. And wow. The lighting consultant who did all the lights and everything, he'd done it. And it was his people that eventually made it. So we had to rearrange the finances a bit so we could pay the extra for that brighter light.
Yeah.
It's strange when you're on the ship and you're looking at the fibre optic, it doesn't look anything at all. But when you're distant from it, it really does shine out.
I mean, traveling on QE2, for example, before this one was even conceived, and you would go into any port and there'd be lines of people, and all the cruise ships would just get ignored.
Yeah.
And this ship does the same.
Absolutely, yeah.
What is it about this ship that gets that attention?
I don't know, it just has that aura.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a liner?
I think it's to do with the shape. It looks like a proper ship rather than a floating shoebox.
Yeah.
And it has some charisma.
Yeah, absolutely.
That captivates people. And of course, Hamburg is the most amazing place. You get hundreds of boats, and there's a couple of hotels along the River Elbe where the ship passes, and they've got sheets out the windows that they're flying.
Cool.
It really is unbelievable.
And this ship does quite a lot of transatlantics that will have a tag-on leg for Hamburg. Was that ever a consideration? Because she's just the right size to fit down the river.
No, that was never, certainly I wasn't party. It's just happy residence, that's right.
So when you look at Queen Mary 2 now, and people come on board and it's all, the interior is decorated and she's beautiful, she's done multiple refits since, like, what of this ship is yours and what was other designers?
Right, well, I did all the technical layout of the ship, where things are, the safety, the powering, the interior architects. There were two firms, and I took them to Eltham Palace to see that marvellous building there that's in the Art Deco style.
Yes.
And in fact, the duplex suites are modelled on the bedroom of the Eltham Palace bedroom. For that entrance lobby at Eltham Palace, that was sort of a vision that I gave them as to what I felt the ship was going to be like.
Yes.
And they all worked on this, and And I
remember when the first brochures were coming out, there's a few things that are different. When were those sort of decisions made, when they changed to the final design?
The artist's impressions were mostly done pre-contract.
Okay.
And a lot of those documents were used to give the yard an idea of what the interior people had in mind so they could price it.
Yeah.
And really need to explain to everybody how these ships are priced up. You've got the technical part of the ship, which is very easy to say we want 4 engines, 2 gas turbines, that. But when it comes to the decorations, there can be vast differences in cost. And the yard, when they sign on the dotted line, they want to know exactly what they've got to contract the outfitters to do. So you do it by saying you're going to have an equivalent room to another ship. So the ship that we used as the reference ship for this was actually Rotterdam 6.
Really?
Because at the time, she was considered the most highly decorated ship. And so I took the French team from Saint-Nazaire on Rotterdam 6, and they evaluated the costs per square foot of deck, ceiling, and everything. And then every single room is benchmarked against that.
And that's one of your ships?
Yeah. Direct coincidence. And then it's a trade-off between standards and some areas where the interior architects really, forgive the pun, want to push the boat out. You're going to have to pay extras or do trade. So that's all part of the process. So that's why it takes such a long time from that letter of intent, which is a base price, to get in the final specification.
And she's held her age so well. I mean, she's what? 20s.
She's 21 years old now in service.
Carpets have changed, chairs have changed, but all this is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to think, QE2 survived, 2 years in her original form before she was radically changed radically. Although there have been superficial changes, the elevators in the atrium have been taken out because of the rebuilding of the...
Then the other day, actually. I just wanted to go straight from there up to King's Court, and I have to go where...
Well, unfortunately, they came up exactly where the servery is.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to go.
Yeah.
So I often feel that collectively, not just me, but collectively, we produced a ship that has been 21 years or so without major change, really. And I think we all did very well.
And just to finish up, I have to know, when you see the ship go in for refit, when you see it getting changed and altered, when the balcony cabins were added on at the top, how do you feel when you see that? Because she's your baby.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because I had the vision about what the ship looks like, and I obviously want to, as far as possible, preserve that. But you do have to realise, at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yes.
It has to make the return on investment.
Yes.
And to make any changes on board the ship costs an inordinate amount of money.
Yeah.
And the only way that can be done is by increasing revenue.
Indeed.
So it's a reality of life.
Yeah.
And okay, everybody on board, certainly, I think you would agree, Chris, on this trip, everybody seems to be having a fantastic time, enjoying it.
Loving the ship.
But at the end of the day, it only exists for shareholders to get their return on investment.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And if you can have people enjoying themselves along the way, it's a real big bonus. And, both of us this trip, I think, doing our bit to
I think so. I mean, full houses in the lectures, people are still very fascinated by the interest, but I think also to be on a ship that's still doing those voyages, still can do the transatlantic. We're in the middle of the Atlantic right now, and it's completely stable.
Yeah, and it's quite rough out there.
Yeah,
I must admit, it's Liverpool 7 and that.
We've done a few live streams, and Luke was mentioning on the live streams that it's quite rough, and hardly any movement at all. You can't see any movement on the camera, I'm sure.
No.
Do you see a bright future for this ship?
Oh, yes, because she's the only one.
Yep.
And she's full. So there's obviously that demand.
Will she be the last liner?
Well, I noticed on the Cunard website where they're advertising the Julian Garnier print,
yep,
they actually state the last liner. And that makes me a bit sad.
Yeah.
Because Mickey always says he saw that with QE2,
yep.
and he said that made him feel that he had to build the new one. So
maybe in 30 years' time, someone will have the same idea.
All we need is somebody now with $2 billion, and we can build a new one.
Steven, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy. And I'm very much looking forward to talking to you on the stage in a few days' time.
Yep, so am I. Very much so.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.